such good conversation with Priscilla, and hopefully you guys can pick up later. Well, welcome everyone. We will call the meeting to order, and all trustees are present, including our new student trustee. And so we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so we have item 2.5 to be taken out of order, and that is the swearing in of our newly appointed student trustee. And so, Kenny, I will ask you to stand probably from there, and that's good. Okay, and so you can, I, Kenny Ibechi, solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this application freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
and that I will fully and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Should I put this back down? I know what I'm doing. Okay, that takes us to item 3.1, approval of the minutes of the regular. Just kidding. Sorry, Angie, because I'm trying to read and load my computer at the same time. So that brings us to one of the most important parts of our meeting, item 2.6, recognitions. Dr. Beebe.
Yes, we have a tradition here at the college of recognizing longevity at the college, and this is always kind of a special part for us each month. We have 3 recognitions this evening. The first one is Pam Lasker. She's the theater manager, and Dr. Priscilla Mora is here to talk about Pamela.
Good evening, members of the board, President Gallardo and Superintendent President Beebe. It's my great pleasure and honor to introduce Pam Lasker, our theater manager, and I'm sure that probably every one of us has been at an event in the Garvin Theater. Is that right? Yes, okay. Yes. This is the person who helps make that happen. And one of the things that I've noticed in my short time being her supervisor is that everybody has the greatest respect for her, and she works with all of her colleagues in the most careful, respectful, diligent, efficient way. She helps run all of the operations of the theater, and I have heard great things about her budgeting capacity. So this is awesome. And many of her colleagues are here tonight, which is very nice, and I wanted to read a few excerpts from some of the comments that they had made. So the first describes her as the face of the Garvin Theater, greeting our community with a smile and kind word when they attend any event at the Garvin. She is a meticulous record keeper and business manager, keeping all the accounting for the theater arts department and the theater group up to date and correct. The theater department always pays their bills on time. From another colleague, the one even keel throughout countless changes in the department. Did we mention that it's her 30th year that we're recognizing? So she has kept the department through 3 decades of change, the longest tenured theater manager in Santa Barbara, and I love this one of the kindest souls at SBCC. And then the last set of comments. She is the kind face and the warm voice in the box office that our audience members so appreciate. She organizes all the publicity and marketing efforts. She is a great communicator who ensures that every aspect of the department is aware of what everyone else is doing. And a final comment, her organization, commitment, meticulousness, and kindness are immensely appreciated, and we all congratulate her on this milestone and are so grateful for all she does for the college and the theater. Congratulations, Pam.
Well, I just wanted to say I feel very fortunate. When I started here, they basically created this position for me, so I kind of feel sorry for the person who has to follow it because I've got everything in one place and I'll have to figure it out. But it's interesting to me and very gratifying that my son, who is entering the workforce, says he thinks it's really rare to find a job that you can stay at for 30 years. And I feel so fortunate that I work with people I love. I come and do a job that I love to do in a beautiful place that I love as well. So thank you very much, and hopefully I'll be here for a few more.
For some reason, it's so funny when very kind soul is right.
Okay, so our next person is Julio Martinez, and he's been with the college for 10 years as a media technician, and we have Barb Friedman here to say some words about Julio.
Good afternoon, Madam President, members of the board, and Dr. Beebe. I'm here as the supervisor of the Cartwright Learning Resources Center to honor Julio Martinez, our media technician, for his 10 years of service to the college. Julio offers a shining example of the possibilities that can be achieved with continued efforts to strive for new goals. He began his work here at SBCC as a student worker, a counter assistant in the CLRC back in 2002, and was promoted to his current role as media specialist. As the face of media has changed over the years, Julio has kept up to date to provide instructors with information on availability of resources and to convert our media library to more updated formats so that students still have access based upon faculty requests. With all he's experienced in these 10 years, I'm certain that he too will continue to grow in this role as students' needs become more diverse. I didn't really understand the impact that Julio had on the college until the first time that our department walked over to an all-campus kickoff together. I can tell you that I saw him for a brief moment, and then he was moving from group to group of people with a wide range of departments and services, shaking hands, smiling, and chatting. And I would like to also add, just on the bridge on the way over here, there were at least 4 or 5 people who said, "Hi, Julio. Hi, Julio." He's someone who enjoys reaching out and making connections, which is appreciated in learning support services since we really try to offer an individual, personal touch to better understand students' needs and to help them persist. Julio is one of the people who is able to do just that. He gives our students some background, and then he directs them to the right place to get what they need to succeed, whether that's in our department or elsewhere on campus. Within the CLRC, Julio works closely to help train our student workers at the front counter, and during times when we have fewer staff in other areas, he also kindly steps in to help students understand how to use new technologies in our labs. One example of the benefit of his patient and calm nature is seen when a student rushes in to quickly access and print a document before class, or one who needs an answer about where to find who or what they're looking for in our facility or elsewhere on campus. This speaks to his compassionate nature. He enjoys personal interaction, working with students to make a difference. Julio's return to a master's program in counseling at Cal State Channel Islands has been a natural extension of his love of learning and consideration for others. He listens with care and balances immediate needs with long-range concerns, crucial for helping us maintain relationships so that all students can succeed. The college is extremely lucky to have a devoted and dedicated employee such as Julio, and it's with great honor that I thank you for your 10 years of service to SBCC, and I know that we look forward to the many more that are to come.
Thank you, Barb. It's a great pleasure and honor to be part of the SBCC family. I remember when I first got here as a student in 1999, I felt so welcome, and I just never left. I love it here, and it's just such a nice place to grow, to meet others, to connect with others, and to definitely help our students. I feel that we really care about our students, and it's such a rewarding feeling to go home and to be able to have that feeling that I've made a difference. And I feel that definitely working at Santa Barbara City College every day, I feel so blessed that I help somebody, and that I come the next day with just such a gratitude and great feeling to be back at work. And I feel like this is gonna just continue because it's just a great place to work, great colleagues, great staff, faculty. It's just a really great place to be at. And thank you for the recognition. It really means a lot to me. Thank you.
So our last person is Sarah Volley, and she's been here 10 years, assessment coordinator, and we have Vanessa Pelton to give us some words about Sarah.
Good afternoon, members of the board and Dr. Beebe. It is my honor here today to recognize Sarah Volley in her 10 years of experience at Santa Barbara City College. Sarah began her career as the assessment specialist in 2008. In 2015, Sarah was promoted to the assessment coordinator. Sarah's main responsibility, and obviously it's a large responsibility, is to run the assessment center, a required step to enrollment for all new to college students. Sarah coordinates all the outreach assessment services to the local high school students, international students, ESL students, and prospective new to college students at Vaquero Days. She also serves as a co-chair of the assessment committee and placement and curriculum transformation leadership team, it's a big one, AB 705 implementation, which obviously is another huge responsibility. She's also part of the Guided Pathways core team and classified consultation group member. Sarah completed her bachelor's degree at Westmont College and holds a master's in rhetoric and composition from CSU Northridge. Another accomplishment of Sarah's is the two-time last place trophy winner in the SBCC Bowling League. Sarah enjoys helping each student she encounters, making them feel welcome, supported, and valued at SBCC. She feels passionate about advocating and implementing processes that promote student success and make the institution an easier place to navigate. I have had the opportunity to work closely with Sarah during her tenure, and it has truly been a pleasure. She is an asset to the college with her many years of experience. She has built strong working relationships with faculty, staff, administrators, and at SBCC and with the local school district. Sarah is dedicated to the college, the assessment center, and her job. She is professional, responsible, and competent. Her longevity at the college signifies her devotion, passion, and loyalty, and the college is fortunate to have her as part of the community. Congratulations, Sarah.
Thank you, Vanessa, and thank you for this recognition. I feel like working here is a great honor. I'm constantly inspired by my colleagues, but most importantly by the students here. And it's just such a pleasure to work here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and congratulations. And thank you to Priscilla, Barb, and Vanessa for taking the time to do these recognitions at our meeting, because we really enjoyed that. So thank you. Okay, that takes us to item 3.1. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of October 11, 2018?
Also move.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Trustee Miller, second by Trustee Croninger to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of October 11, 2018. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Okay, motion carries. And item 4.1, we have no public comments. And now move on to item 5.1, report by Academic Senate. Patricia Stark.
Good afternoon. Oh, that went fast. We haven't actually met. The Academic Senate has not met since the last time. It seems like I was just here a very short time ago. We usually do this once a month, but I'm here after 2 weeks. So we haven't really met, but we have been very busy. And one of the things that I've been involved with is I went down to the Academic Senate for the California Community College's fall plenary last weekend. We were a delegation of 4. Kathy O'Connor from Physical Education, Lori Vasquez from Educational Support, and for the first time, we had our senator from the School of Extended Learning, Sachi Oates, and I think she enjoyed it quite a bit and learned quite a bit. But the one thing I want to talk to you about today, which I think is actually very interesting, is this resolution that the State Academic Senate passed. We passed a total of 24 resolutions, and I have a link up there, and then Liz tells me the links don't work, so I'm going to have to go through kind of the tedious job of reading a little bit of this. But the fact is the State Academic Senate was this close to issuing a vote of no confidence for the chancellor of the community college system. And they pulled back a bit on that, but they wrote a resolution that's actually very strong in its language. And I'm just going to read excerpts from it, and I don't like reading, but I think this is important for you to hear. And he's named by name in the resolution. Whereas with the appointment of Eloy Ortiz Oakley as Chancellor of the California Community Colleges, the Academic Senate for California Community Colleges and other representative faculty groups have observed significant changes to the functioning of participatory governance at the state level due to their lack of inclusion in policy discussions concerning academic and professional matters, budget planning, and 18 development legislative agendas and other issues that significantly impact the entire system. And they include in that performance-based funding and the creation of the 115th online college. Whereas Chancellor Eloy Oakley has unnecessarily set an adversarial and defensive tone by limiting collegial consultation and transparency. Sorry, I can't seem to speak. Transparency has actively diminished the role of stakeholder leadership by decreasing access to meetings in which decisions have been made, has exhibited a general disregard of the concerns of faculty and other stakeholders, and a matter that goes against previous practice and the expectations as outlined in the Ed Code. I'm going to skip a little ahead and say, has appeared to regard the role of the California Community Colleges Chancellor's Office as an agency that should fix the colleges rather than support the colleges and the communities they serve. And I'll only read one resolved. Resolved that the Academic Senate for California Community Colleges express to the California Community College, express to the Chancellor's Office and the Community College Board of Governors its urgent and serious concerns regarding failures to engage in participatory governance by Chancellor Eloy Oakley. I thought you might be hearing about this, so I wanted to let you know that the State Senate has been consistently and strongly opposed to certain measures, but more importantly, they've been opposed to the lack of a strong faculty voice in these decisions. So I wanted to share that with you. But on a more positive note, this is, excuse me, we're now in week 11 at Santa Barbara City College, and this is a very rich time for us at the college. Those things we've been working on in so many different areas of the college are coming to fruition. And while we're all very busy, I think I hope to show you that what we're doing is really very productive and even joyful work. We had last night Cherie Moraga, who came and spoke at the Garvin Theater. These are projects that faculty have been collaborating on, involved in, not by themselves, definitely in partnership with our staff and with our administrators. But our faculty, it's been a long day, folks. Our faculty in the multi-literary English transfer program were involved in that. Soon, we're going to be having our Leonardo Durantes lecture. This year, we have Patrice Cullors. And I was actually in my first semester at Santa Barbara City College, November 1990, when we heard a horrible story about a young student from Mexico, his second year in our ESL program, who was stabbed to death in a parking lot on State Street in a hate-related crime. And this lecture, all these years later, still recognizes the memory of that student, and we always bring in someone to speak about issues of equity, all of the things that we hope that we share at this college and that we can share with our students. I don't know if you're aware, but the holidays are a glorious time for our music department, both the vocals, the orchestras, and we have 5 or 6 events, and counting all of them coming up, where they're going to be playing all over town, really connecting our college to the community. Our theater arts department is doing what it does with its the only theater production of the year, which is 100% student acted. Our art department is doing art. This is really our student clubs are culminating in their activities. In terms of faculty itself, I was actually really interested today to read in The Independent, which, by the way, has a great plug for the Promise program, that the K-12 schools are working into a social-emotional learning. And while we think that's great, I wanted to let you know that we've been doing this at City College for about 6 years now, originally under the guidance of Elizabeth Emhoff, who now oversees our Title III grant. We've been holding really intensive workshops to take a look at the social-emotional types of skills that students need to succeed in the classroom. We're having another one during the winter break, and even now, starting tomorrow, Elizabeth is sponsoring, again, through her grant, a very intensive implicit bias workshop sponsored by the Crossroads program out of Chicago. We have 44 faculty members who will be attending that. Faculty is very busy setting up our hiring committees for the 17 new faculty members we're going to hire. As I told you several months ago, we're going to be having an expedited process this year so we can get applications out sooner, so we can have interviews sooner, so we can hire people sooner. We also have faculty serving on several other management committees, hiring committees. It's keeping us very busy. The 705 effort is all-consuming. It's keeping the faculty in our math department just extremely challenged to try to figure out how to keep standards high while implementing that legislation, which, as you know, basically eliminates assessment tests and sets a standard where we have to make it possible for every student to complete freshman-level English and math in 1 year. And we continue to work on our Guided Pathways project. Margaret Prothero, our faculty coordinator, led a 2-day intensive retreat where we really solidified our goals and created yet a larger framework for how we're going to proceed with this really important project. All right. Anyway, congratulations to our 2 board members who were in contested elections. Congratulations to our 2 board members who ran unopposed. Welcome, Kate Parker.
Good morning.
It's always interesting. My older son went to school with Pam Lasker's son. My younger son went to school with Adam, Kate's son. And by the way, I want to say it helps to have friends in high places, because if you know Pam Lasker, you get the best tickets at the Garvin Theater, the best in the place. And thank you to our soon-to-be former trustee, Marty Bloom. Thank you all for your service.
She lives in the neighborhood, so she won't be far.
Any questions? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Wow, that's all I have to say for Patricia speaks in the last
going
couple
on.
times.
They're doing
I
a lot.
know. Yeah, well, I'm sure as all these things unfold, they'll come in to our purview here when it's appropriate, right, Dr. Beebe? Guys are doing a lot on the ground, so thank you. Item 5.2, report by associated students. Is Josh here today? No, he was, yeah, okay. It's that time of the semester. Yeah, I know. Item 5.3, report on classified employees. Liz Auchincloss.
Good afternoon, members of the board, Dr. Beebe. The consultation group did meet this week. We're still talking about the facilities master plan, and we had another discussion on the use of short-term employees at the college and substitutes. And at our next meeting, we'll be having input into the survey for college climate. And I also wanted to thank Trustee Bloom for her service. Thank you very much. And for the 2 that ran uncontested, and particularly congratulations to the 2 members who had contested elections, to Trustee Miller and especially to Trustee Croninger, because she happens to be my trustee in my area. So congratulations on your win, and I look forward to working with you for the next few years, I hope. Okay.
Thank you, Liz. Item 5.4, report from Superintendent President, Dr. Anthony Beebe.
I had the opportunity to attend and present at the Salute for Teachers award ceremony, which was put on by the San Diego County office.
Santa Barbara County.
Did I say San Diego?
Work here.
That's what I said.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I was like, are you?
Santa Barbara County.
Yes.
Office of Education, and it was really a glorious, I know Veronica was there, it was just a glorious celebration and fantastic. I had the honor of presenting the new Distinguished Teacher of the Year Award, which was fantastic. But I also want to thank the trustees for their service and congratulate those that got reelected. This is not easy work. You know, I know that you're volunteering your time, and we certainly appreciate that. And Trustee Bloom, we certainly are going to have a chance to thank you more properly in your service to the board. But congratulations to all of you that have been reelected, and we're certainly looking forward to working with you and serving. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. That takes us to item 6.1. Is there any items that trustees would like to remove from the agenda?
Motion to pass the consent agenda.
Did you have something to say?
It struck me that we congratulated all of us who were reelected, but it seems to me that somebody was elected to the Goleta School Board from this very room, and I wanted to make sure that she was congratulated too. Congratulations, Luz. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Haslam. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes items 7.1 through 9.2?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Trustee Abud and seconded by Trustee Bloom to approve items 7.1 through 9.2. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. And we swore you in, Student Trustee Betchy. How's it going? Good, okay.
So good.
Good. Okay, so item 10.2, revisions to Board Policy 2305. This is annual organization meeting, and this is now coming back to the board for approval. This is now second reading. Is there a motion to approve?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Trustee Nielsen, seconded by Trustee Bloom to approve Board Policy 2305, annual organizational meeting. Is there any discussion? Nope. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Wow, it's 4:30. Item 10.3, report from board members. Nothing to report.
It's been a short period of time since the last one.
Yeah. Anybody else? SBCC found? Yes.
Recently, regarding the county education office, there's a board for county schools, facilities, which I sort of by default get notified on. And so we nominated candidates and everybody's cast their vote, which isn't really due till somewhere around the 17th or 19th of November. And, but there's been no meetings. They're just sort of, so I didn't really have to attend a meeting. In fact, I had to go walking around up there to figure out who to talk to and what was really going on, because I couldn't figure out why they had these meeting dates, but there were no meetings. And anyway, I figured that out, and it's fine. It means there's no major issues, but there's some stuff I'm looking forward to coming up over the next year.
Good. Anybody else? Okay. And we have a report, and this is report from Dr. Mona Hassan on HR. And so this is our faculty and staff diversity annual report. And I remember you giving us this last year, and you set the bar quite high with nice benchmarks and just like these graphs and a very sort of clean, high-level view of what we're looking like. And so, not to put any pressure, but I was impressed last year, and and it was the first time we've sort of gotten, sort of a kind of a clean picture. What do we look like? What are we doing? And so, thank you for putting this presentation together for us this afternoon.
Well, thank you for having me, and good evening, everyone. I always look forward to sharing this information because I think it's so important. It's aligned with everything that we do as a college. How we serve our students, and we have wonderful staff and faculty here that are so dedicated to the mission of the college and serving our students. And I'm not going to be able to take a lot of credit for any minor change. We had some slight change in our diversity, but this is work that happened before I came on board. And so this is, next year will be the first year that we see what happens with any of the initiatives that we've implemented this last year. So Pat English probably is part of this work as well, so we want to honor that as well. And so I'm going to start off by going over the items that we're going to go. We're going to look at what we look like as a student body, our profile. Then we're going to go into the faculty and staff demographics, and then we'll look at what we look like as an applicant pool. So we didn't have a lot of applications. The reason why is we had a slowdown on our hiring as well. So we had applications, but not really as many as we probably have had in the past. But then we'll look to see how did that compare to the people that we actually hired. And so looking at that analysis as well. And the last part is really the most exciting part of this all. We've instituted a certificate program, so I'll share a little bit about that. You've probably gotten some of the information because you're on the all-user email, so hopefully you've seen some of that information already.
So let's start here. So this is probably not news to anyone here. We're about 44% white Anglo-American as student body, and then we're about 37% Latinx, and then 4% Black African American, and we're about 9% Asian. If you look at the percentage that we have there, which is 7% Asian, a lot of that are probably international students represent a lot of that. But if you add the 1% Filipino, and then we have a little bit less than a percentage for Pacific Islander, it's almost 9% there in that group. And so with that, we have diversity within that group as well, and within all of these groups, actually. So with our Asian population, oftentimes we think about the model minority, right? We think of high achievement in that. But when we look at that data a little bit deeper, and we haven't broken it down on this one, we also have Southeastern Asian students who sometimes have the same barriers and obstacles that some of our Black and Brown students have as well. And so we need to recognize that and honor that. And within all of these groups, including the Latinx, we have low socioeconomics, high socioeconomics, and then we have different nationalities within that. We have, Mexican, Cuban, Puerto Rican, whatever, so we have a diversity within the diversity, right? And then with our white population as well, we have poverty within each of these groups. And we had a presentation by, I don't remember her name, Martha or Dolores from the county, I think, and she works with the homeless population, and we have a huge homeless, population in our K-12 system, and our students are sometimes just bigger versions of the K-12 students as well. So we have the socioeconomic aspect of our diversity as well. So this is what we look as our workforce. This is our workforce. And so the way I broke it down this year is the same way I did last year. It's about 7 categories there about. And we look at gender, and we also look at ethnicity, but not only in the raw data, but in the percentages, because one number could really change that percentage drastically when you're dealing with a small number. So I think it's always important to demonstrate what we look like with numbers and also with the percentages. So I always start off with that full-time faculty number there, because that's where we impact student achievement the most. We have 241 folks in that category. We've had a lot of commitment and dedication from a lot of our hiring committees to do the work that we do in impacting diversity and equity in our hiring process. So I really thank a lot of our stakeholders here, our classified members, our academic senate, faculty, and management on helping us with these initiatives to be a part of these hiring committees that help us diversify. But we have 241 there. You can see there that we're about 71% white Anglo-American, and then we're about 19.5% Latinx, and about 4% or so Black African American. Now, when we look at those numbers, we could say, just like I think I said last year, we're about 4% Black African American as a student body. If we're looking at that as the goal, or where we see ourselves as parity, because 3.73% is really close to parity when you look at our student population, it doesn't really work that way, though, because those 4% Black African American students represent about 500 students here, and that 4% represents 9 full-time faculty members. What are the chances that our 500 students are going to run into one of those nine members? So we continue to go, even if we're exceeding what we have in percentages for students, to give the most representation that we can in all of these categories. It just, representation, the research shows that representation matters to our students, and oftentimes, and maybe you've heard it yourselves, that some of our Black students really don't feel a sense of belonging at all times, and I've had a lot of stories that have come to my attention. And so we want to honor that feeling and work with the Umoja program, with our Black Student Union, help us, I like their representation on our committees so that they can give us ideas on how to help in that area. But, so we really didn't change in that area. We're about the same. I think we increased our minority representation there, our ethnic minority representation by about 0.5% there.
And so when you look at the pipeline, though, because if it is true that our pipeline for full-time faculty would be our part-time faculty, well, that's even less diverse. So if you look at that bottom area there, faculty part-time, I don't think this, yeah, right here, we have 579 folks here, but we're really less diverse. So this is a systemic issue here. The reason why this happens here is because we don't have a structure yet implemented. Where we have structures here, we know what we're doing here, we have preset criteria, we have structured interview questions, we have hiring committees that are diverse, that represent all of our stakeholders. We're working on that. This is our initiative for this year, to work a little bit in this area, because the research shows where we have discretion on who we hire. We're going to tend to hire people within our circles, so we're not really going to change. We're going to reach out to folks within our circles, and we'll remain about the same. So then, if it's true that this is our pipeline for full-time, then we're not going to see this number change as much unless we hire from the outside or so forth. So there is something there that we need to do here to improve. And then if it's true here that our full-time faculty is the pipeline for this here, which is our executive, administrative, managerial, which are our deans and directors and that are educational administrators, we're going to see a lot of alignment within those three because our pool is not there. So we're doing outreach right now. We're recruiting where the market is for people of color to see if we can have some success there and just bringing in people that represent our student body. And we have seen some movement there. I can't really take credit for this. This was 72% white Anglo-American here, and this was the Hispanic number here was 19% last year. However, I'm probably one of the 15 that were hired, so that would include me and whoever else was hired. So it was the efforts that happened the year before that created that spike there. And so that's thanks to Dr. Beebe and the team that was here before I came on board. But you'll see, I wanted to point out one more. I'm not going to go through each of these, but here, see, if you look here, we're 32% diverse. If you look at all of our diversity, we're 32% as a workforce. But when you unpack the data a little bit more, you're going to see a lot of our diversity in entry-level jobs here. So if you look here, right here in our custodial, grounds, food service workers, those types of positions are right here. We're actually overrepresented here in our Latinx. Remember, we were only 37% as a student body, but we're 74% right here. And we're underrepresented in some of these other groups here. So we could work here on maybe some career ladders, maybe some folks. I think I said this last time, my husband started here as a custodian. He became a coach, a teacher, a principal, a central office administrator. So there are success stories that happen here if we have the mechanisms in place, and we do. We have professional growth here in our district. So, I would like to see some more efforts here and growing our own here. And then we'll see diversity right here with our secretarial, clerical, and so forth. So I don't know if anybody has any questions, if you knew about these statistics, or.
I'm interested in what you're saying about, thank you. I'm interested in what you're saying in terms of, it is skewed badly that these lower paying positions are diverse and the higher paying positions aren't. So I like what you're saying about creating an internal pipeline from entry-level positions to better paid positions, so.
Yes. And what are we doing? Well,
Yeah.
right now, I'll talk a little bit about it at the end, but there is a Success Through Equity award that we've created, and it touches on 7 core areas. That's more to help us be more culturally aware, culturally sensitive to their student populations, but with each other as well. And that's part of professional growth for our folks here. But we have reimbursement for some of our classified folks. We need to expand our efforts in making that happen. And, if the interest is there for some of these people to move. And if it doesn't happen in this area, it could happen in some of the other technical paraprofessional areas. A lot of these folks in the paraprofessional area, where we also have some diversity here, These are folks sitting on BAs and masters sometimes. These are student program advisors that are very talented and very skilled and can move up the career ladder very easily as well. So just continuing to look at the data, continue to look at where we have opportunities for growth, encouraging folks to apply, doing more seminars, like on Saturdays, markability seminars to support folks, which are some of the things that we want to roll out this year. But, and then working on some of these pipelines that are here in our part-time faculty, that's another big one as well. The other thing too is I wanted to point something out here because we are doing, but this is pretty traditional for education systems. We're 57% female and 43% male. We're pretty good there, but that is traditional for education in K-12 community colleges and probably even in four-year institutions. We tend to have a lot of women that go into the field there. But when we look at it later on by department, you'll see that we have some gaps when we break it down a little bit further. So we have gaps there. Even though it looks good overall, there are gaps.
Is the faculty, that includes our counselors?
They're considered full-time faculty, service faculty,
Yeah.
counselors, yeah.
So just to get a good picture of who's in our classrooms in front of the students, then that would be a different. Because if that includes the counselors,
This full-time faculty number includes counselors. Yeah. So I'm going to move it along because I'm going to try to keep it to about 20 so I could answer your questions. So I broke it down a little bit further here so that we can look at our trend here. So this is the top one that we talked about, the executive admin managerial. So if you look at our trend there, remember we had some cleanup there. Remember before 16, 17, we had a lot of unknowns. So in some of these areas, you're going to see a reduction in unknowns, and now we've identified where they go in these categories. So really, the good data is probably going to be this year and 16, 17. So we'll start seeing a trend after the third year. I always say 3 years or more becomes a trend of what direction we're going in and helping us diversify where we can. So you'll see there that there hasn't been much change there. These 15 folks here for 17, 18, oops, let's see what I do. Okay, right here, this right here was cleanup, so it's not like we just hired 6 folks out of, they were there, but they were over here in the unknown right here. So now it looks like this is accurate, so 20%. We actually went down for 17, 18 in that area. No, what happened there? This number didn't change, so it's 15%, but there is a number there. I'm sorry, I'm not sure where. We'll look at, go back one and see what that looks like. So if you look at here, we had 15, we had a total of, what area was that? Let's see. Am I looking at that right? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, okay. So no, that is absolutely right, because that's we had 15 folks, and that's 28% Hispanic. So we're seeing some growth there. Remember I said last year we had 19%, and so that's some growth there. So that's going in the right direction, and so that's a good sign there. Then we go to the next one, which is classified staff. So here's where we traditionally do better in our classified area. So we had pretty flat with our Native American category from 16, 17 to 17, 18, and then we're pretty flat with our Asian, as we are with our Black African American. We actually took a 1% dip there. As you could see, 3 people there can make a difference, because that's a difference in individuals. It went from 12 to 9, which reduced it by 1%. And then in our Latinx, even though we had less people, because we had less employees overall, the percentage stayed the same. So, and we hired 15 folks, but those 15, some of those were promotions within as well, so they're not really new people, but they're people that had new jobs within the organization. And then if we look at our professional non-faculty will be some of our higher level paid IT jobs. And typically, positions that are professional that require some kind of certificate or license or that have a BA or above would fall into this category. So this is where that number, yeah, that's where that number, there's a number missing there, but we went from 20% to 15%, and the rest were pretty much the same. We didn't have too much change there in that area. So here's the clerical secretarial. Again, you could see the trend there, 29%, 27% for Latinx, pretty flat on the other three ethnic minority groups there, and then pretty flat in the white Anglo-American. So really no change there for this year. Technical paraprofessional, the numbers are pretty flat here as well. So we had some growth there in our diversity in some spots, and then a slight decline in our white Anglo-American there. So that would be, technical paraprofessional would be any of our IT positions, and this is where we have some of our SPAs, and then we have anybody that does instructional work with the classroom. So these positions are directly impacting students because they're educational classified positions here in this category as well. And then the skilled crafts, so this is where we have our journeymen. So we have our plumbers, electricians. We only have 5 of them, and it's broken down into 40% and 60%. That didn't change. Now, I do have a story on this one because this is one where in my former district I had an opportunity to hire. It was a really talented male Hispanic that was there, and the first level committee had really thought that this was the best candidate. But when we went to the discretion on the final interview, the hiring authority chose the person that wasn't of color, a male white. So when I had a chat with him, because I found out a little bit later, I must have been gone when he made the selection, then I came back, I said, can you let's talk about that a little bit. What happened there? What changed? What made you lean towards that candidate when the other one was rated higher during the preliminary? And one of the things that he said, which just shows us that we still have a lot of work to do, he said, well, those jobs are traditionally white male jobs. Those types of jobs always go to white males. And I couldn't believe that I was hearing this because we had done some training already, and I just, we couldn't do anything by then. The man was on board. But he said it like very innocently, like, doesn't everybody know that those jobs are traditionally go to white males, those higher level skilled craftsmen, what I call journeyman level jobs. But so, when we have opportunities, it would be good to maybe add Asian, Black, here. I think that would be a great opportunity as we grow in this area. Service maintenance, this is where we have a lot of representation, but we still lack here. Do you see there where we're right here? We are pretty diverse. We have a lot of Latinx folks in this category, and then we have a little bit of the rest here, but those are opportunities. So I always look at them as opportunities. Let's look at opportunities there to diversify here a little bit more, and maybe we could even diversify here and hire more white Anglo-Americans in this category, since they're underrepresented in this area, right? And then full-time faculty, this is our trend here. So I always put the statewide numbers to see how we're doing when we compare ourselves to the state. So for 17-18, I think as I indicated earlier, we were 71% white Anglo-American there. When you look at the statewide numbers, we're more diverse there statewide, if you look at the numbers there, and these are right from the MIS data that comes off the Chancellor's office. So when we compare ourselves to the state here on Latinx, we're below the state average. We're below here. We are below here in all of these areas. But then we're higher right here. So that's state. But the trend here is looking like it's improving here. So 19% to 20%, 3% to 4%, so that's going in the right direction. You know, here it's pretty. And then the last one is going to be the adjunct faculty, part-time faculty. So here, they have the same issue here, right? So we say we're less diverse, so is the state less diverse here. And we're actually declining here. So right here, you see movement in the other direction, so we're becoming less diverse here. It could have a lot to do with our, our cost of living here and that, but there is availability of people of color because when we went to the Center of Urban Education, they showed us that there are about 80,000 people with masters in California, and so, of people of color. So we always say, well, there isn't a pool of folks, but they are. It's just how do we reach out to them to get some of these folks to apply to some of our jobs here?
Veronica, can I just ask a question? Yeah, it seems like on all of these demographic signs, yeah, it talks about 2 or more races and very low numbers. Are those people that identify with 2 races and so they're self-identified?
Yeah, so they could be, any 2 races like white.
Okay,
and
so then so if I had a Hispanic mother and a white father, I would say 2 or more races, but am I also going to say I'm Hispanic? Am I?
So when we look at it, if we can identify if there is some, say they're Hispanic and white, we started identifying them as 2 or more races because that's the new category, so we want to honor that.
Yeah.
But I think in the past, if we saw that one of the parents or part of the ethnicity was maybe Hispanic or black, that we would include them in the black category. But now that we have the 2 or more races, sometimes it's 3 or 4 different categories, right?
In fact, I think it's getting more and more diverse, and I'm not quite sure. I don't want to say, I love numbers, and I think these are very interesting, but I think at a certain point, the numbers don't mean anything because if I have a, Filipino dad but I identify as white, I mean, there's all kinds of strange things that go on there. Strange just mean different. So I'm not quite sure how this all works. And it's the same with the census every 10 years, too. There's really not a place to mark. I have, 4 different races in my way background or something. So
we had
I'm
this
just not sure.
conversation the other day, I think, in one of our meetings, and it's true that we are becoming more multi-ethnic, what you want to call it. I know that I'm Native American, I'm from, ancestry from Spain, I'm Mexican, I'm black, I'm a little Asian, so
Which I think is absolutely wonderful. Good for you, and all these different things. So I'm not quite sure where this is headed, but it'll probably be 50 years at least till it heads somewhere.
And again, I think where it's headed is that the research still shows that when you see people that represent who you are as a student, that you're going to have higher completion rates. You're going to have minimize the negative stereotype that we have, what we call a stereotype threat. And we're going to have a better sense of belonging. That's what the research is showing. And when we do the hiring committee training, we go through that research, and it's very clear that it does impact student achievement and completion rates. So part of it is, I've argued with myself sometimes, well, yeah, you could have somebody that's Latinx, like a female Hispanic that grew up in Beverly Hills and will never understand the student from the Vadio because they just don't get that, right? And one of our white male faculty members here said, but that's not true. Even if they don't understand that person from the Vadio, the fact that they're there in the classroom means a lot to that student of color. And I like that argument. Let's bounce these things off. Let's think about these things more critically to see what is the real impact and what is it that we're trying to achieve. So part of it is, yes, we want people to understand that we have students of poverty here on our campus, that we have students of color that come with their own richness of foods and language and backgrounds that are assets to our learning environment that actually help all of us learn better. better. You know, I was in Manhattan Beach. I just have to share this. I know I said I was going to keep it for 20 minutes, but walking on the Strand, all kinds of cultures talking to each other. Went to a Persian restaurant, two Hispanic families going for their meal, Spanish speakers, but they knew how to order everything off that Persian menu, and how beautiful that was to me. And then I go to Starbucks and I'm engaging with my Black brothers and sisters and Asians, and everybody's just connecting. That's the beauty. I think that's the beauty of what we're trying to accomplish here, so that people do feel that sense of belonging. And you know, that's all of us, you know. And I always say the best advocate that I had when I was getting ready to drop out of high school, didn't look anything like me. She was white and had blue eyes. Her name was Mrs. Faulkner. Everybody on this campus probably knows the story about Mrs. Faulkner because I use her all the time. But she, if it wasn't for her, I probably would be dead in prison on drugs somewhere, you know, but not here. And so she understood me. She understood who I was, and I think that's what we're trying to get at. Maybe we're not going to accomplish the diversity, but we're going to get people that understand the populations that we serve, and that's very important.
Thank you. Good answer.
Quick question. I know this is taking a while, but I think it's it's important. So what do we have an understanding of why we're so far off from the state, especially in full-time faculty and the numbers? Is it because I look at the applicant pool, I know I'm skipping ahead, but it's not like there's a complete shortage of non-white applicants. So is it the cost of living here? Can they not buy a house here? Rent? Is that the issue? Is it the culture? They feel uncomfortable coming to a culture here compared to another college. Have we gotten a sense of why? Or are the committees not diverse and then they're picking more white faculty because the committees are white?
It's all of those except for the last one, because our committees are very diverse, but it's all of those things that you mentioned. It is the cost of living. It is the fact that we weren't advertising. We went and had our things reviewed, our selection tools, and we scored a 0. On our job announcements, we never even stated that we're a Hispanic serving institution, or that these were our demographics. This is what our student body looks like. So we changed and we revamped that. So we're hoping that this year with our 17 positions that we have, we're going to see all those things like that make a difference, because if we don't represent that, then somebody that's a person of color is going to say Santa Barbara is not the place for me, because they may not have diversity, they may not embrace diversity. If we're not saying this, now we include that in our job description, that we're a Hispanic serving institution. Dr. Beebe has a really great message. We give a breakdown of what our student population is. We have an Umoja program, and so forth and so forth. We talk about #1 college. We talk about all these attributes that we have as a college. So that was one part of it. The other part is that, yes, we have a high cost of living here, and maybe people don't want to move here if it's too expensive. And so we've implemented something that I think you saw on this a couple of board agendas ago, where we have some relocation stipends. It's not a lot of money. It's only $2,000 that somebody that gets it's moving out of the area. But that's an incentive to look, at least it'll maybe pay for your deposit on your apartment, or a third of it or something like that. So the other part of it is the training that we're doing with our hiring committees on implicit bias. We all have it. And implicit bias doesn't mean that we're bad people. It means that we're human. But how do we counter those measures? And part of what we're doing is by putting structures into our processes, making sure that we're checking at each step. Okay, we start off with a real diverse pool. How diverse is it when they get to the first interview, and how diverse is it at the selection? Analyzing that, and then I'm looking at it every step and calling in the committee. Okay, help me understand this, because you screen in such and such person, but then this one was left off. Maybe I missed something. And usually they explain it and we're good, but we have some checks and balances there. And people are being more thoughtful about this and slowing down a little bit on the process, on how we're doing this. And I think all of that makes a difference. And it's not going to happen overnight because, one, we don't have a lot of attrition and we don't have a lot of hiring going on. We do this year, so it's an opportunity this year to do that. But it's not going to, we're not going to get there by hiring alone. So that's why I'm glad that Elizabeth Emhoff is doing her work with the anti-racism, and Crossroads is here. As soon as I leave here, I'm a part of Crossroads. We spend today from 3:30 to 8 o'clock at Crossroads, tomorrow all day, and on Saturday all day. That's the first part of the training, and they're here to help us with some of this work as well. So there are about 55 of us. Is it about 55 folks going to the Crossroads? Yeah. So, and I'm excited about going as soon as this I'm done here tonight. But
Thank you.
So this is what our applicant flow analysis is. So as you can see there for 16-17. Those are the numbers. Those are just numbers for you to see. That's what we look like. That's the number of applicants that we got. We had pretty diverse applicant pool there. We had some, 200 in the technical, paraprofessional, Latinx. So we do have some numbers that we can select from. So, now it's where are we losing them? They're applying. At what part? Do we have some biased processes, or maybe some of our questions not good, or are we using language that maybe some folks don't understand, or what have you? There's a lot to this work, a lot to this work. And this is for 17-18, so we didn't have as many applications because we had a slowdown on our hiring, but we still had a pretty diverse applicant pool there, and it's going to be even more diverse now because we're advertising and we're out there in the market where we have people of color. So this is going to look a lot more diverse next year. And then we have, this is just another way to look at the data. We're not going to go through this, but just looking at the percentages there of our applicants and the number of people that we have in our workforce. So you can look at that at your leisure, but, and then this one is how we did this last year. So for management recruitment, we had 352 applications, and they were in those categories. And we hired 9, but 6 of those were promotions. So promotions either from one of the other groups into management. So we had a total of 9. But we didn't hire in this category, in any of these categories this year. And so in the faculty part, which is at the lower part of this chart here, we had 355 applicants. We could, the numbers are deceiving. That's why I like to put the actual raw data and the percentages, because if I didn't have this number right here, we could actually say 50% of our faculty hiring were people of color, right? But it's only 1 in this case because we only hired 2, So it's very important for us to look at both the percentages and the actual raw data. And then our classified, a little bit more diversity there, 542 applicants, and we hired 15, or some may have promoted from lower classifications there. So let's go to the opportunities. So the opportunities that we have this year is, this looks a little messy, but this is on gender. So the dark red one there is female, and then the lighter one is male. But if you look at, these are the departments that have faculty openings this year. So we have opportunities to diversify in gender here. So if you look at the automotive here, we have 2 men here. We have a lot of women going into the field of automotive here. So we have opportunities to look at that. So if we're looking at this data now and using this to say, where could we improve? We could hire somebody here, and that would help us with the gender balance here. And then in cosmetology, we have a lot of men wanting to go into cosmetology, so we have an opportunity there to hire. And we have 2 openings here, so we have 2 opportunities in cosmetology to diversify here. And then if we look at ESL here, it's actually 5, but it came up as 4 here. We have 4 women here, maybe adding some gender, because our men of color, they have barriers, and representation really actually matters a lot to them also if we don't see male role models or males in the classroom there. So we have opportunities there. If we look at the next slide, in that ESL area here, there's the 5 right there. So we have, it's really no diversity there because 5 women, and I understand that there were 4 men in this category before. 4 men, I don't know where they went, but I guess it was a larger department, and so this is more diverse as far as gender. But we have 5 women, and they're not of color. So there are opportunities here to hire and diversify a little bit here. In cosmetology, we can diversify here because we have 2 openings, and then all throughout here. But you'll see in these departments, a lot of them are 100%, so there is no diversity here. And then some of them have, like here, one right here in accounting, it would be 1 and 1, so that would be 50%. So we had this person retire, so maybe we could replace somebody with another male that's of color there. So those are opportunities. So this is where we get into the certificate program. So we all know that we have an Equal Employment Opportunity Committee, and there's a plan that Pat English developed, and then I modified it slightly last year just to add some new components of Title V, and that you approved last year. And then we have the Equal Employment Opportunity Advisory Committee, and that meets, we're very active. We meet each month. So we meet monthly. We have a huge committee. It represents students, faculty, classified, you name it. And we're working hard on things, initiatives, on looking at our numbers, looking at professional development, getting additional training for folks. And so one of the things that we're doing is we developed the Success Through Equity Award, and it has to, it's a certificate program that touches on these 7 areas. And so some of the larger areas like culture, you would have to finish like 6 or 7 workshops within that area. But if you look at a smaller area like veterans, which really isn't that small, we have a somewhat significant population here, we would need like 2 or 3 workshops to complete that section. So overall, if you completed the entire award program, it would be about 25 workshops that we would need to complete. Each one of these has a number of workshops that fall under it. And each time you complete one of the 7 areas, you get a badge, a digital badge. But in order to complete the full certificate, that's when you get the award. And this is meant to go over time, not a 1-year thing, because we can't do this over 1 year. It has to be ongoing as our needs change. So it's meant to be completed over a number of years. And then other things that we've done is attended the Center for Urban Education to help us with our recruitment tools, and then the relocation incentive. And then a big thing that we did, that took a long time too, I don't know, we revised our policy on recruitment to diversify our selection pool, our hiring committees. That took about, I want to say 5 or 6 months to get that complete. I went through a lot of vetting, back and forth reviews, and we finally had that approved, and we are using that new policy now. So that's thanks to everybody's commitment to that work that we were able to get that revised. And this is our, these are the names of our committee members, and so you'll see that it's very diverse and it represents all areas of our college. And we have a lot of work to do this year. Kenny's one of our newest members. He came to our last meeting. So that's all I had. I know it's a lot of numbers. It's not the most interesting stuff, but it's the data that we need in order to set our benchmarks on how we're going to move forward. And I thank you so much for your time.
Is there any discussion or questions?
I'm glad we've been doing this. I think it's gotten us way more aware of what's going on in our employment here. Thank you.
How's your experience been on the committee, Kenny?
Very good.
Yeah? Good, yeah. Well, thank you, for putting this together. I think for me, you know what you said in the beginning, that there are these sub and micro populations within our populations, and I think that we do a good job at being mindful of that at Santa Barbara City College, and we serve all our students. You know, this, when I look at this stuff, for me, so, I mean, Juan and I were the first generation college students, so this, when you speak a lot of these demographics of these kids, so I'm like, yeah, that was Juan and I. But now I have Jocelyn and Gabriel, and so I think it is interesting that, you know, you would look at a sub-demographic because our kids are certainly not growing up like Juan and I did, and that's the way it should be. We were recipients of, you know, whatever services were available, and we went through the community college pipeline, and so our kids should not be the free and reduced lunch. You know, that's what we should have. But I think that at San Barbara City College, one thing we have done well is we've given a place for all our students, and we continue to do that. So, I mean, when I hear Priscilla talking about the math and the faculty, yeah, that I'm sure is racking their brains. And I think in the community, families, parents, we want excellence at San Barbara City College. We want the best. One of the hallmarks of our college has been our dual enrollment programs. Our high schools can't always meet the needs of our high-achieving students, and parents, and I myself, I mean, my daughter is here for her cognitive stimulation, and she started here when she was 15. She has her social time at the high school and does great things, but Santa Barbara City College is giving her and her friends what they need academically, and had Santa Barbara City College not been here, we'd be looking for another venue. For families that maybe can't afford the private schools, or we don't want the private schools, we want our kids in public schools. So I recognize the challenge that you guys have in the classroom, in serving all of our students and everything that comes with it, because you know, when Marty was bringing up that point, you're saying, gosh, you know, there's so much to it. And, you know, I remember early on when I started with Santa Barbara Unified, and I got a hold of the statistician there, and I said, well, help me understand this. And it came down to poverty. It came down to socioeconomic status. And I think that that's really what you're dealing with, is students that's it. And you can be white, you can be African American, you can be anything, but if that's what you're dealing with, that's what it is. So for you guys to be aware that you're going to look at me and not assume that, you know, I get this a lot. I did not grow up celebrating Dia de los Muertos. I did not grow up doing any of that stuff. And so for me, a lot of those things, all those things, that was new when I got to Santa Barbara City College. I didn't grow up at all, but you would think, well, she's first generation, she's Mexican, her parents migrated. No, very conservative, Catholic, like traditional. And so for my daughter, who has 4 grandparents, they're very much focused on what she's doing, where Juan and I are taking her, what foundations we're supporting, and so she's got the influence of 6 adults in her life. So for Jocelyn to step foot on this campus, you know, you would assume, oh, Mexican, but no, she's got 4 very traditional grandparents and 2 parents, so 6 adults that are micro looking at what she's doing, and so I don't know if that makes sense, but I appreciate that you guys are looking at all our students for, you know, what each individual student needs, but that also adds to the complexity of our work, and so not to generalize that, you know, it's all same, because it's quite complicated. Yes, student trustee Agibechi.
Just to add to what you said, one of the motivations of me joining the committee was taking a class last semester, and I had another black student with me, and I asked him, he wasn't come to class regularly, and I asked him, why don't you come to class? He was like, this is not for me, because I don't see someone who looks like me teaching this class. And looking at STEM here, there's no black representation of a full-time faculty. So I think this is represented in the amount of black students who take these classes. So I think this is very important, and should be taken critically. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for being part of that committee as one more thing.
Yeah, just one quick thing. That's a good comment, and I think maybe next time looking at departmental more would be good, because we know STEM is maybe less diverse than the social sciences. I mean, that's a gut feeling. I think it's right, though. That's been what a lot of people's experiences has been. So looking at that. And then one last thing. So with the demographics, is it all the self-reporting, or are you giving, I don't know how you collect the data, but do you just tell them, here are the census designations, check which one you are? Because, you know, the federal government, for example, Middle Eastern people, which I am, we're kind of as white, but we're not white. So, so how do you tease that out? Because can we do our own system to ask people their race, or are we just going to lump, you know, a whole class of people into the white category, even though they might not be?
Yeah, they try to fix that with the Hispanic category, because Hispanics are...
Mona, Dr. Sun, do you want to come to the thing and answer?
They fixed it somewhat where now, instead of asking, are you white, because we're either white or black unless you're Asian. So Hispanics and Middle Eastern, yeah, you're right, they're considered white, but they do self-identify. So there are drop-downs on the banner system, which is our enterprise system that we use, and they can select what's available or do an other or do a multi-race selection, so 2 or more. Was that your question?
Yeah, well, that's good to know how it's done. So it is a system we control that they check on. But then, can we pick what the categories are, or is it like is it like, prepackaged?
They're prepackaged, but then there is some opportunity for you to state other.
Okay, well,
But the other is just.
other is kind of like,
Right.
what is other?
And-
Like,
Exactly. And,
it's kind of like, I don't want to say rude, but it's like, am I just an other because I'm not white, black, or Hispanic, or Asian?
Yep.
So to
Yeah.
answer,
Yeah.
it is a box, and it's all the way that the state wants us to report the numbers, and it's
Yeah.
the same for students as well. For the Hispanic, at least, what they do now is that you could be either black or white, but then you're also, you say, are you Hispanic or not Hispanic?
I think the
And for-
census does that too.
Right
maybe.
now, that's a cleanup from that, so that's how our banner system works. But yes, it is boxed in, and it.
So we can't add
It
more.
doesn't give us everything that we need right now.
So we can't add like another category ourselves saying, we'd like to check this one. Like, we can't say, you could, because you could be black and Middle Eastern from North Africa. You could be, maybe you could say I'm white but Middle Eastern. I don't know how people want to do it, but is there a way to just add another question? Be like, okay, based on whichever one of these you picked, are you then Middle Eastern? Like the same way they do it for Hispanic. Is it-
Not now. So the only option that we have right now is to select as many of those that you think that you represent. So,
That's no fill in the blank or anything.
no.
Okay.
No fill in the blank, no.
What I'm gaining from this conversation is that not only is racial identification difficult, possibly even inaccurate, but it may also be irrelevant. Picking up from what Veronica is saying,
And what Marty was saying, too.
that we might want to find a way of looking at socioeconomic variables that may be more important than the pigment of my skin.
I wish the research supported that. That's all. I wish the research said that that's the case. But the research shows that it has a lot to do with race and socioeconomics. I just read a document in preparation for the class that I'm going to go to tonight that indicates that even families like Veronica's and maybe even mine, that our students will have a harder time, if they choose to get into the 458 higher-end schools. And we're going to be going into the 3,500 schools that are not as prestigious, just because of all these factors, So I don't have all the research at my fingertips here, but I'm just saying that it has a lot to do with both factors on the access that we provide to our
Sure.
students. And
No, that makes sense. So it may not be either or, it may be both.
Yes.
And that gets much more complicated, but possibly more accurate.
Possibly, yeah.
I would just put in the same comment as Peter, that I think is tremendously important for us to try to look at the data on poverty and economic status as well. I think it shows up in our program review data, and maybe some looking at that would be helpful.
Yes, one of our 7 categories for our achievement award is socioeconomics. So, it's huge, and we look at that. So, thank you so much for your feedback and your wonderful question.
Yeah, and your comment, student trustee Becci, with the STEM, and obviously being the K teacher in me, and obviously Luz can agree, looking at her data at the K-12, and I remember this conversation about, well, we don't have enough Latino students in the AP class at the high school, and we got to encourage more dual enrollment, and well, if they're not proficient in reading in 3rd grade or in math, it's like their trajectory gets, Marty knows. Marty was an elementary school teacher. So I just feel that as a collective K-14 system, we can really impact a lot of these things we want to do, and especially the mission of the community college. My goodness, this is what, we can move the needle on a lot of these things. But really for our K-12 partners, our students, you know, we could desire for them to take all the dual enrollment they want, but if they academically are not ready and not reading at grade level, then they're not reading at grade level, and then we need to then figure out what are we going to do to help our students get to grade level by 3rd and 4th grade, so when they do get to middle school, they can jump into our dual enrollments. And so I think that that's very close to my groundwork, and it's something we have to get better at, because then we are going to then have 12 years later someone pursuing a STEM degree, and we do quite well with our STEM Hispanic students. They transfer to really fancy schools like Cal Poly, but there's so much work to be done here. But again, the bright side is that we're part of that work because we're a community college. So good for us for having this conversation at this table rather than some other place.
I just want to thank Mona, Dr. Hassan, for all of her work and her direction, her vision. This is super important work, and she's living, breathing this every day and helping us move the needle forward on this. So thank you so much.
Did you have a last comment, student trustee Bishop?
Yeah, just to chip in to the discussion where they said the pigment of the skin doesn't matter much. I think it does, because looking at it, we have more black athletes because we have very successful black athletes. So when a kid sees a LeBron James on the screen, like, oh, this person looks like me and I can do this also. So I think having more black faculty will also encourage black success on campus.
Models. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, guys. Well, this has definitely been goals and conversations, and good to have any other thoughts. No? Okay, well, we passed our board reports, but we did get an email about a potential meeting, and so should you have any reservations on dates for the future, please let Angie know, and I believe some folks have already reached out. Anything that we might need. Okay, so with that, is there a motion to adjourn? Well, we have to wait, because we will tell you that we do have notice on the agenda for closed session, item 3.1, and we will be postponing that to a future board meeting.
Yes. With that, I move
Wow.
that we adjourn.
I know.
I second it.
Okay, it's been moved by
What will I
trustee
do with my
Haslam
extra hour now?
and seconded by trustee Eastland to adjourn. Thank you, everyone.
All right.
I know, this is good. This was
Again, my